Okay, so the Toxin project is going to be your first research project for me. There's only two in this course, one in this unit, one in the biology unit. We'll have 2 days with the Chromebooks to work on. Okay. The expectation here is that you'll produce basically a report that tells me about a toxic chemical that you have chosen, that tells me about that toxic chemical. So, whether it's ionic or molecular or organic or things like that, what its structure is like, okay? Where it comes from, how it's made, okay? Is it natural, or is it something that people cook in a bathtub in a hotel room, something like that, because sometimes people pick those, okay? So yeah, you'll be telling me about it, and then the other part of this is that you will tell me about its societal effects, okay? Because all toxic chemicals have some greater effect on society, okay? And this should be about like a 2/3 to 1/3 kind of weighting. Okay, so about like 2/3 of the report should be on the chemical, and another third of it should be on its societal effects. Okay? So when I say societal effects, I'm talking about how it would affect someone who maybe isn't directly exposed to that particular chemical. Right? So for example, if you had chosen to do your report on methamphetamine, okay, which is a toxic chemical, right? The societal effects of methamphetamine are fairly wide-reaching, okay? They may not affect me because I don't use methamphetamine. Spoiler alert, I don't, okay? But it can still affect me indirectly, okay? And the ways it can do that are, lots of times people on methamphetamine make bad decisions, okay? And they might engage in behaviors that could affect me. Maybe I get mugged, okay? Or maybe they're operating a motor vehicle when they crash into me, okay? Maybe they end up in the hospital. Who pays for hospitals? We do, yeah, that's what your taxes pay for, okay? And healthcare is expensive, right? But in Canada, the way healthcare works is we believe as Canadians it's our responsibility to take care of each other, and that no one should be financially ruined by having to go to the hospital, okay? Not every country in the world thinks that way, okay? Our neighbors to the south don't think that way, okay? It's very, very different. You end up in the hospital, you can be financially ruined, okay? Because it's not their belief that hospitals should be something that you can go and visit if you're sick without having to pay for it, okay? So, I mean, right or wrong, we believe, and as a result, we pay higher taxes to take care of each other, okay? So that's a societal effect on me. The more people who end up in the hospital, the more taxes I'm gonna have to pay, okay? If that person's driving a motor vehicle and crashes into me, I'm now gonna have a claim on my insurance. Does that make my insurance go up? It does. That affects, I wasn't exposed to the toxic chemical, but it's certainly affecting me. It's affecting my pocketbook, okay, pretty severely, right? Those are what I mean. So the kind of indirect things. I didn't get exposed, I didn't get poisoned or whatever, okay, but I was still affected by it, right? So there's lots of different things that you can look at there, like, again, like imaging facilities, hospital use, treatment centers. People who are on methamphetamine often commit crimes and end up in jail. Who pays for jails? You, yeah, taxpayer, okay, pays for jails, right? So that's affecting you as well. Those are the societal kinds of things I'm talking about, okay? And then we may have to make laws about certain toxic chemicals, like their proper disposal, or where you're able to get them, or if you're able to get them at all without a special license, okay? Things like that. So for example, a lot of the chemicals that are in the chemistry lab, you or I can't just go to Walmart and buy them, okay? We have to order them, and we have a special license that says, I'm ordering this stuff for this purpose, I'm storing it securely and safely in this way in this building, okay? And so then we're allowed to have it. Because some of that stuff, I mean, you've seen Breaking Bad, some of that stuff might be used to do things that might be considered unscrupulous. Okay, everyone follow me there? Okay, so that's what I'm looking at in terms of societal effects. Okay, so as we said here, in your project you need to report on the chemical nature of your toxin, what type of chemical, how is its chemical structure related to its toxicity, how does it cause damage to human tissue, what are its toxic effects, what are the symptoms a victim may exhibit. So tell me, what does this stuff do when it gets in your body? Okay, so, if it's like alcohol, well then, it can do this to your blood pressure, and it can do this to your brain chemistry, which does this, and over the long term, it's bad for your liver, and all that kind of stuff. So you can talk about all of those things as part of that. I'm not saying you necessarily have to answer these particular questions. It's giving you ideas for things you might want to talk about when you talk about what the toxin does. Okay. For the societal effects, like we said, the area is more open. Okay, things to explore might be exposure to the toxin is by choice. So if it's a drug, that's by choice. Okay, or if it's in the workplace, then you're exposed to it because that's where you work. Or maybe it's in nature, or maybe it's a chemical spill. Okay, it's how are you exposed to it? Okay, what are the costs? And I don't want a dollar figure. Do not try to find how many millions of dollars are spent treating this or that. I don't want that, and you're not going to find it. Okay, so don't bother. Just say person ends up in the hospital. Hospitals paid for by taxes. Do kind of those kind of costs. Okay. For our society in general, okay, are there regulations for exposure to that toxin? So is it legal to purchase it? Do you have to be a certain age to get it? Can you get it at all? Okay, things like that. And then finally, a short little bit on your opinion. Okay, do you think it should be more greatly available or less available? Okay, things like that. Now, the big thing with research projects is using other people's information. Okay. First off, any place you go to, any source you use needs to be cited. That means given credit in a bibliography. Okay? Since you're probably going to be getting all of your information off the internet, okay, the way you cite a website is like this. Okay, and I'm going to give you a sheet like this, or I'm not going to give you a sheet. It'll be on Google Classroom when I put it on there, so you can refer back to it. Okay, author's name. That online is the hardest thing to find. Okay, so make sure you're going to reputable places. Reputable places will generally give the author's name. You might have to look for it a bit, but they'll generally give it. Okay. Otherwise, if it's like blogs or like chat rooms or stuff like that, you got to take some of that stuff with a grain of salt. Okay. Like, be a bit, let's say, discerning about whose site you visit. Right. Crackpot Joe's website about crack is probably not the most reliable source for information on crack. He might know a lot about it, but it might not be accurate or useful. Okay, especially if he was under the influence when writing. Okay, so things like that. Just be cautious about where you get your information from. Okay, so name of the author, the date the article was posted, or the last day the website was updated. You can usually find that on the website. Okay, the name of the article. Okay, so in this case it was Vive le Quebec, Vive le Canada. Okay, the name of the website, so the website was called the Daily News. Okay, then you give me the URL, so the www. I promise I didn't copy this, mrcoderre.com. Okay, and then the date you accessed it, which will definitely not be that day, because that was before you were born. Okay, so it would be like next week, so March 14th, 2023, or whatever day we get going on it. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so that's how you would do your references, and you should have at least 5. Okay, what I don't want to see for this is 5 URLs and nothing else. Okay, if all you write are 5 URLs, those URLs might as well be www.ididn'tlistentomrcoderre.com, I know I'm getting 0 out of 5 on this coderre.com. Okay, like that might as well be what you write in there if all you're going to write is the URLs. I want the author, the date it was posted, the name of the article, the name of the website, then the URL, and the day you accessed it. All of that information needs to be there. Do your best to find it. Okay. If you absolutely can't find the author's name, then you can say unlisted contributor, or unknown author, or something along those lines, or anonymous author, if that's the case. Okay, you can put that. But if you have that for every single one of your references, I'm going to go, probably could have looked harder. Okay. All right, does everyone understand on that? Okay, now a note on plagiarism. Plagiarism is bad. Okay, and plagiarism is copying someone else's stuff, whether you intend to take credit for it or not. Okay, and guys, I'll know. Okay, like back in the day, I had to kind of read through it and go, gee, that doesn't sound like something a 16-year-old would read. But now, modern technology, I have a plagiarism checker. Okay, it searches the web, the entire internet for matching words from your assignment. And I don't mean like it's not, obviously that's gonna come on. Okay, but it's gonna look, and if it finds similarities, it tells me, and it catches them every time. Okay, and then that's awkward, because then I have to go, you cheated. And then maybe you feel bad, maybe you don't, but it's awkward for me, okay? And then you get a 0. So I don't wanna have to do that, okay? So you don't get anything out of this by copying other people's stuff. You don't learn anything by copying other people's stuff, so don't copy other people's stuff, okay? Put it in your own words. It's okay to look at it and read it and go, okay, what is that saying? I want to put that in my words. Putting it in your own words also doesn't mean adding a very, okay, to the sentence, right? Or changing 2 words and going, now it's mine. No, it isn't. Okay? If you talk to the English department, okay, they'll tell you even taking somebody else's idea is plagiarism. And they're right. Okay? I'm not that strict. I'm a numbers guy. So when I do the plagiarism checker, if I see a double-digit number for the amount of matched material, that would be 10% or more, you plagiarized it. Okay? Only has to be 10%. Now, I'm not saying you should go through and change things so that you can get it down to 9. Okay? I mean, come on. Then you're not understanding the spirit of the thing. Okay? But I've had, some that came back at 98. It was pretty obvious. So make sure it's your own words. Okay, that's the big thing. Okay, so there's going to be kind of 5 categories where you're going to get marked on this. Planning. Planning is easy. Okay, it's the easiest 5 marks out of 25 on this assignment you can have. Okay, here's what I'm looking for planning. Either a thought web. Okay, so if you're a person who likes diagrams and you want to make a thought web, take a picture of it, put it in. Okay, or an outline. So you can say like paragraph 1, I'm going to do this, or slide 1, I'm going to do this. Either one of those, that's good. And everybody has to have a timeline. Okay, and the timeline is also really, really easy. All you have to do is write down what days you worked on it and what you did. So you can say, next week, March 15th, researched in Coderre's class. Okay, and then if you're the kind of person that will then procrastinate until the day before, you can write down the night before, finished everything. That's your timeline. I mean, you're being honest at least. Okay, but that's all I'm looking for. A thought web or an outline, one or the other, and a timeline. Super easy 5 marks. Okay. All right, and then you're going to have 5 marks for your analysis. So that's kind of when I'm reading it through. Is it factual? Okay, is there good data in there? Find some interesting stuff. Okay, communication. So when I read through your assignment, it doesn't seem like it's in another language. Okay, like I'm not stumbling over punctuation and spelling and stuff like that. Okay, if it makes a good impression for me and it's smooth, it's not all choppy, okay, and it seems like a nicely constructed assignment, that's where that comes in. Okay. And then you'll have your research and investigation, so that's your references, citing them properly, having at least 5, having them all be valid, okay? And then overall, so that would be format, creativity, and this is where I'm looking for things like diagrams, pictures, again, spelling, okay? Punctuation, stuff like that would all go in the overall category, right? Now, I bring that up because I want you to understand the impression that things make. I have had some of these handed in and they looked like they were bleeding because half of the thing was underlined in red by the spell checker. Okay? You have access to the spell checker. So I shouldn't get a report from you that needs to be spell checked. Okay? So make sure you do that. It makes a really bad impression when I get it and I'm like, oh my God, what happened here? Okay? It should already be done. Okay? Same with the grammar checker. I once got a report that was a 1,500 word sentence. There was one period at the end. Craziest thing ever. Okay? Yeah, so it was, but it was also very weird to read. There were no natural breaks. It really didn't flow. It felt really odd. Okay, so little things like that, they make an impression. That's part of the overall and part of the communication part of your mark. Okay, so make sure that that works well as well. All right, so the scope of this, 800 to 1,000 words will get the job done. It's not going to get you 100%, okay, unless it's like brilliant. Okay, but most of the time, you want to get 100%, you're looking at 12 to 15. Okay, I'll talk about it more next week. Okay, make sure you study this weekend and try not to be on the roads. It's supposed to get real ugly this afternoon.